Mangwanani Malilepo Fukenjani Kekwas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Berry and Glenn Orashipura. How are you, Glenn?
I'm doing very well. How are you? I know
fantastic.
You had an exciting evening
Oh, yeah,
yesterday.
I mean, there was a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Especially in the sporting world,
Yes.
but I'm calm and ready to go.
Okay, all right. Let's take a look at what you can expect in today's broadcast. 76 million internal displacements recorded in 2023. South Africa's unemployment rate climbs just weeks before election. And King Charles III transfers Colonel-in-Chief role to Prince William at an Army Air Corps ceremony. We'll also be talking to Ari Hogat, who'll be filling us in on the latest news in South Africa. We'll be right back with your top stories.
Introducing 061 Express, brought to you by Synergy in proud partnership with Windhoek Express. Here's your chance to make your voice heard to celebrate the businesses that make Windhoek exceptional. From your favorite coffee spot to the salon that always gets your style just right. It's time to shine a spotlight on the gems of our city. Over the next 8 weeks, it's your chance to vote for your favorites to recognize the best of the best. Nominations open on the 25th of April and close on the 5th of May. To nominate your favorite business, simply save this number, 085-785-6231, and WhatsApp hashtag 061Express or scan the QR code below and follow the on-screen instructions. By nominating your favorites, you're not only supporting local businesses, but you also stand a chance to win your share of 50,000 Namibian dollars in cash. The voting process will be the same as the nominations process, using the Synergy chatbot and the hashtag 061Express. Voting opens on June 5th and closes on June 23rd. Make sure to cast your vote for the best of the best. The winners will be announced on June 28th. 061Express, celebrating the heartbeat of Windhoek. Get ready to make your mark.
Getting into our top stories, conflicts and natural disasters left a record nearly 76 million people displaced within their countries last year, with violence in Sudan, Congo and the Middle East driving 2/3 of new movement, a top migration monitoring group said. The Internal Displacement Monitoring Center report found that the number of internally displaced people, or IDPs, has jumped by 50% over the past 5 years and roughly doubled in the past decade. It doesn't cover refugees, displaced people who fled to another country. The report tracks two major sets of information. It counted 46.9 million physical movements of people in 2023, sometimes more than once. In most of those cases, such as after natural disasters like floods, people eventually return home. It also compiles the cumulative number of people who were living away from their homes in 2023, including those still displaced from previous years. Some 75.9 million people were living in internal displacement at the end of last year, the report said.
Swinging over to Mzansi, South Africa's unemployment rate rose for the second quarter in a row to 32.9% in the first 3 months of this year, data showed on Tuesday, 2 weeks before the governing African National Congress faces its toughest election yet. The increase from 32.1% in the fourth quarter of last year brings the official unemployment rate closer to the record high of 35.3% reached in late 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic. South Africans will vote in national and provincial elections on May 29th, with opinion polls suggesting that the governing African National Congress, which has been in power since the end of apartheid, is at risk of losing its parliamentary majority. Joblessness has risen about 10 percentage points in the 3 decades since the ANC came to power under liberation hero Nelson Mandela, and is a key concern among voters. In the first quarter of 2024, the largest decreases in employment were in the community and social services and construction sectors. There were job gains in sectors like manufacturing, agriculture, and mining. Frank Blackmore, KPMG South Africa's lead economist, said as long as the economy continues to grow below 1% with a population growth of about 1.5%, then the unemployment rate will continue to rise.
All right, we'll be talking to Ari Hoha shortly about those stories and more, well, stories surrounding that, particularly the South African election shortly. Now, King Charles III has formally passed on the role of Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps to his son, Prince William, in a military ceremony at the Army Aviation Centre in southern England. During the event in Meadowallop, Hampshire, the 75-year-old monarch expressed his confidence in Prince William, highlighting his son's exemplary piloting skills. It's encouraging that he is a very good pilot indeed, remarked the king. The symbolic transition marks a significant moment as the king, who had held the position for 32 years, hands over the baton to his elder son. Despite ongoing cancer treatment, King Charles engaged with veterans at the event, discussing shared experiences, including the effects of chemotherapy. Arriving by helicopter, the king joined Prince William for the formal ceremony, speaking fondly of his admiration for the Army Air Corps' work in Iraq and Afghanistan before endorsing Prince William as his successor.
Wrapping up our top stories, China is targeting citizens studying abroad for their political activism, rights group Amnesty International said on Monday, with some students reporting harassment of family members back home. China does not tolerate political dissent and has used sophisticated tech tools and intimidation to crack Beijing's curb on political activisms, which are increasingly expanding abroad in the form of transnational repression. Amnesty International said in a report, citing interviews with dozens of students in 8 European and North American countries.
All right, those have been our top stories on Africa. Good morning. National elections in South Africa are just 2 weeks away. It's only right that Aihohad walks us through it all, including all the stories currently coming from Mzansi. Stay with us.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Well, you know how it goes. You vote some people in, you barely see them for the duration of their tenure, and then 2 weeks until the election, everyone is rustling and bustling and trying to make their way into their yard with their posters and promises. Ari Hohad, I believe that's the atmosphere in South Africa right now. Talk to us. How are you?
Yes, a very good morning, Ashton. It seems like you're right next to me. That was very well said and exactly what's happening. So you have a bit of both. You mostly have people that you never heard before that all of a sudden claim they can do 10 things that's never been achieved before. So that is currently happening quite a lot, challenging each other. So it is a difficult time for South Africa to figure out where my vote will go. They say about 70-80% of people already know where they're going to vote, but there's a big margin that is influenced what's happening the next 2 weeks. Just practically, that is Mr. Sai Mababolo. He's the important man from the Electoral Commission. He said that all on track. So that's quote unquote. He said that all the practical things are in place, ready for 2 weeks from now, what's going to happen in South Africa. So there's lots of infrastructure. There will be 202,000 voting officials that will be on hand. And obviously, there's also needy people that they look after, 1.6 million people that need special votes, of which about 600,000 are at home, that the voting stations go to them. So that's quite nice. And also, obviously, there's expats. There's a few in Namibia as well. About 76,000 of them expected to vote. They're not going to make a big difference in the voting in the end. They cannot vote for provincial regions, of course, because they don't live in any province in South Africa, but they can vote for a political party on the national level. So lots of hustle and bustle going on, lots of posters going up, and lots of the statements being made. So it's a challenging time for the voters to figure out where my vote will go this year.
There's definitely a lot going on in South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa intends on signing the National Health Bill into law, and insurance company Momentum Metropolitan is the first major insurer to respond.
Yes, and then Metropolitan's concern was obviously trying to protect what they offer at the moment. So that is a challenge. I'll take one step back maybe first. It's going to be signed in today. There's been a bit of from political observers, a bit of criticism about the timing. So obviously you would think that they would time it like this. 2 weeks from the election, it is important to show the people of South Africa that the ANC or the government do care. So this is a big statement to say that we care. We want to look after your health insurance. It could have been signed last year, January, February, but it's now. So it obviously plays a role in the election. That's one. But the important thing is we must realize that people in South Africa, all people in South Africa, do need health care. So I think everybody's on the same page there. The challenge here is just the affordability of that. So it's all good to say that everybody can just go to any hospital, any place close to you, but it must be able to be funded in a way. So how it is proposed to be funded is through taxes. And in fact, the budget for this is about 250 billion annually, 250 billion rand annually. And that's about 4% of the GDP. And that 250 billion is also the 16% of the people that pay for medical aid. So that's roughly that component that's going to be thrown into the pool. So there's been criticism saying the government's been battling to keep state hospitals going. Now what they do is they just open the floodgates and say, the statement is, or that is what the rule will be, you can go to the closest medical facility to where you live. So if it's a private hospital, you can walk in and it will be paid by the state. Nurses, hospitals, everybody in that hospital will be paid by the state. So that is the challenges of metropolitan. So it is a slippery slope, but where's the money going to come from? At the moment, 250 billion roughly for the state hospitals, 84% of South Africa in that system, 16% also in private healthcare, and that's also about 250 billion. So they're going to throw that all in one pot, 500 billion access, but it's free to all. You can walk in wherever you want to get medical assistance. So that's the challenge.
Wow, I wonder where South Africa would be if every year since 1994 you were 2 weeks away from elections. Let's get into your next story. Ari, the Minister of Electricity, Kgosiento Ramokgopa, has some concerns with regards to Eskom. It seems like Ari is not there anymore with us. Hopefully it's not the aforementioned electricity, but let's just talk about the stories we would have gone through with them. The Minister of Electricity, Kgosiento Ramokgopa, is concerned that Eskom faces a new crisis in the immediate future from the deterioration of municipal infrastructure. And the last story is rescuers are continuing to work around the clock in Georgia, where a 5-story building collapsed last week. Those are the stories stemming from South Africa. We're going to head over to the weather before we return with your economic news stories.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
Let's get into your economic news stories. Uganda is in talks with Chinese firm Sino Hydro Corporation Limited for the development of a $180 million power transmission line to allow Uganda to export power to energy-starved South Sudan, the president's office said. As part of the talks, a delegation led by Yang Yi-shin, Sino Hydro Corporation's vice president, met Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni. A statement from Museveni's office said late on Monday. The project will involve the construction of a 138-kilometer high-voltage transmission line to take power to South Sudan, the expansion of 2 substations and construction of 1 new one, the statement also said. We are very much willing to help develop this project with the required finance if needed, Shin was quoted as telling the president. Museveni expressed support for Sino-Hydro's offer to develop the project, the statement said. In June last year, the 2 countries signed a power sales agreement to allow Uganda to sell electricity to South Sudan. The Chinese firm is completing a $1.5 billion 600-megawatt hydropower project on River Nile in northern Uganda that is meant to be the source of the electricity exports to South Sudan.
In our next story, more than half of the credit granted by Mozambique's Banco Nacional de Investimento was in default at the end of the first quarter of 2024, and most other banks in the country also had non-performing loan NPL ratios above the 5% limit recommended by the central bank. In the Bank of Mozambique's report on the prudential and economic financial indicators for the first quarter, to which LUSA had access on Monday, BNI, which is on the central bank's list of institutions with fewer than 1,000 clients, ended the period with an NPL ratio of 52.40% against 43.98% at the end of the previous quarter, and an NPL coverage ratio that had slipped to 69.29%. The 15 or so commercial banks on the central bank's list are followed by EcoBank with an NPL ratio of 33.88% and Mosa Banco with a ratio of 19.12%. From the list released by the central bank based on data provided by the financial institutions themselves, United Bank for Africa (UBA), First National Bank (FNB), Standard Bank and First Capital (FCB) have NPL ratios below the recommended ceiling at 0.84%, 2.62%, 2.66% and 3.98% respectively.
All right, those have been our economic news stories on Africa Good Morning. We're going to head over to the indicators just before Ari returns with the sport.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with tennis news first. The Italian Open that continues, exciting. It's the second week of the Italian Open in Rome, and the results from the round of 32, or the third round, is that Andrei Rublev, the number 4 seed in the men's division, he's out of the tournament. He lost to Alex Müller of Germany 3-6, 6-3 and 6-2. Better news for Alex de Minaur. He is the number 9 seed from Australia, doing well on clay. He defeated Felix Auger-Aliassime of Canada. And then Stefanos Tsitsipas, his number 6 seed, is also back in form again, winning against Cameron Norrie of Great Britain. And the score there was 6-2 and 7-6 in favour of Stefanos Tsitsipas, one of the favourites to reach the final over the weekend. In the women's division, it is number 3 seed Coco Gauff that had a tough game against Paula Badosa of Spain, winning in 3 sets, 5-7, 6-4 and 6-1. And then number 2 seed Aryna Sabalenka continuing her good form as well, beating Elina Svitolina 4-6, 6-1 and 7-6. Also a very tough game for Aryna Sabalenka to go through to the round of 16. And Danielle Collins of the USA also still in the tournament. She beat Irina Begu of Italy 6-love, 6-3. She's also through to the round of 16. In soccer, it was English Premier League that continued. It was Liverpool that played against Aston Villa. It was a home game for Aston Villa. It ended 3-3, very exciting game. Good news for Aston Villa. They're very close to securing a top 4 position in the English Premier League that secures Champions League soccer in a 2025 season. So that's important for them. And it is Liverpool that stay at number 3 on the points list, will easily make the top 4. Also news from Bournemouth is that they confirmed that their coach Andoni Areola, he will maintain as their coach. He signed a new contract until 2026, and it's Bournemouth currently 11th on the English Premier League list. They've got 48 league points after 37 games. And to conclude today's international sports news, it is golf news. The second major of the men's calendar, the PGA of the USA, will be played this week starting on Thursday. And some of the early favourites will be Rory McIlroy that won the past weekend, and also Scotty Scheffler that recently won the Masters. Also 7 players that will be in action from the Live Golf Breakaway League, and defending champion in the PGA is Brooks Koepka, and he is currently playing in Live Golf, so defending his championship, of course. And then other notables to mention is a South African, Dean Burmeister, also playing in Live Golf. He got an invitation, so he's been rewarded for good form, and also Taylor Gooch of the USA. So that is the men's PGA, the second major of the year, starting on Thursday. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning throughout this broadcast. Let's have a look at the highlights. 76 million internal displacements recorded in 2023. Uganda in talks with China's Sino-Hydro over power line to South Sudan. And South Africa's unemployment rate climbs weeks before election.
And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning. From me, Glenora Shipura.
And me, Ashwin Berry, Suraj Kanaka.